The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your hosts, Christy Scales, Aisha Morrison, Nicole Hutchison, and Jess Navarez.
Welcome in to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm Nicole Hutchison alongside Aisha Morrison and Jess Navarez. Ladies, what's up?
Hello.
Sorry.
It's good to be back.
Feels great.
Yeah,
I know,
missed you guys yesterday.
I know, I'm sorry.
Ditto. No apologies.
Yeah, I missed y'all.
Ditto.
Glad to be back.
We missed you.
Yeah.
There's work to be done, sis.
Period. We're going to get to work right now.
Oh.
We got a lot to talk about since we missed yesterday. Let's just start with the obvious. Martavis Bryant, the new signing for the Cowboys to add some depth to that receiver room. Not that they really needed depth, but this is a story for a different day, in my opinion. What are y'all's thoughts on this new signing? Because, I mean, for me, if we're going to make a new addition, I thought maybe right tackle to add some depth there to give Terrence Steele obviously some good quality backup there. Just kind of rest him a little bit, and when the time it comes, I was kind of shocked about the wide receiver addition, especially since this is a guy who hasn't played in the NFL since 2018. So I was a little shocked about that. What was y'all's thought?
Yeah, so obviously did some digging on Martavis to see kind of what he's been doing since then, and he's played in multiple leagues, most recently the XFL, so it's not like he's just been sitting for the last 5 years, which I think is important to note because he still has his football mind fresh, although when I asked him about it in the locker room today, he said, that it did help him, like I said, keep his legs fresh, keep everything fresh, but he ran into a wall, literally. Yeah. I saw that video today. Joe Hoyt tweeted it if you want to go look at that. But, it's an interesting signing, and I'm interested to see how or if they utilize him at this point, because you just don't know. There's still so many question marks about distribution overall within the current wide receiver room, and then you add another factor into that, and it just makes it a little bit more of a spider web, if you will, of all of the what ifs and what can happen. And so I think it's interesting, but I also think in the meantime, what you're going to see is a ramp up phase of a guy learning the playbook, a guy kind of readjusting to life in the NFL as compared to the XFL, and getting his body right back into NFL shape. And that was one thing that he mentioned in the locker room today, was getting back into football shape. And so, I think if you do see him, you don't see him for a minute, just based on kind of those factors that he has to get going with. And then you see what comes of it. But I think it's interesting. And I'm excited to see kind of how this ramp up works for him. And go from there.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it from a standpoint of, I think we talk about the practice squad very trivial, like it's just like another, it's like, oh, it's practice squad guys. But the importance of practice squad is that you're getting reps against, when they're doing scout team and they're doing work, it gives you a real look at your opponent. And one thing that I bring, a similar look to your opponent is what it's supposed to do, is to help you practice. And when you look at Martavis Bryant and his size, and kind of some of the things he's able to do as a guy that can run the 9 routes and has a history of having speed, I do think there's similarities in some of that. When you look at, respectfully, when you look at A.J. Brown and how he plays, there's similarities in their tendencies, the old Martavis Bryant. So I do think adding him to this scout team, this practice squad, with his height and his size, gives the Cowboy defense another look in practice that will allow them to prepare more for these big size wide receivers. And also, too, even though it appears that, thank you, and then though it appears that the wide receiver room does have depth, it's not it's depth, but you have Billy Johnson, I think, if I'm not mistaken, who's more of a speed guy, even though he can route run. You have Jalen Moreno Cropper, and I believe who's the last?
Jalen Brooks.
And then you have Jalen Brooks. And so you do have some young guys. So you add a gentleman who is technically still very much so a veteran that's been in the NFL before. He's seen the lights. I get it. It doesn't bother me even from just a standpoint of them getting some quality reps against a guy his size with his ability and practice to prepare them for these games later on in the season or when they see a Philly again or something, you know?
Yeah, you touched on it, bringing a guy that has experience, right? He said he's 31 years old. It's kind of old, but no, I'm just playing. Not old. Sorry. I'm just playing.
Pain.
I'm just playing. In football years.
It's so weird. Football years are so weird.
Yeah, they are
They're
different.
so weird.
But no, I remember when he said, I'm still fast, I'm still big, and I still want to play football. So that was something cool to note that he still has something to prove, considering he hasn't played about
Juice.
4 years. So hopefully he can bring some juice. But what does that do for a guy like, I know Mike McCarthy said today that it's to be determined on whether or not we even see him this season. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, in the next couple of weeks he does get into football shape. What does that mean for maybe like a Michael Gallup or like a Brandon Cooks? Because we haven't really seen much production from those guys.
Well, I think what you're going to see is going to be a product of what you see here in the next couple of weeks from those guys. And it's interesting when you go back and you kind of look at the scheme and how it's evolved over the last 10 weeks and into this halfway point of the season. Because what you're seeing is a very CeeDee Lamb-friendly scheme where really the first look tends to go to CeeDee Lamb from Dak Prescott, which makes sense. That's your wide receiver
he's just
one.
that open too.
He's that guy, and do it. If you have that guy, you have that chemistry, CeeDee's going to be open, take advantage of it. However, I just wonder how much you see the evolution of the scheme continue to become more open for other guys like a Brandon Cooks, like a Michael Gallup, like a Jalen Tolbert. I just don't think up until this point, we kind of expected the growing pains that you're seeing from having a new play caller and having a new OC in these positions because it's all still new. You look at it, you're 10 weeks into the season, yes, but in the retrospect of how long you had a Kellen Moore and you knew his tendencies, you knew his play calling ability, you knew his scheme, there's going to be some growing pains. And so what I think you're seeing now is the evolution of what this offensive scheme is. I don't think it's a complete picture of what you're seeing. I think they still have some stuff to figure out in game mode, in season mode, that you can't necessarily start to figure out until you're at this point. Honestly, you take it week by week. You scheme up what your opponent is giving you, what looks right on film, and you go from there.
To answer your question, I wanted to add that.
Okay. I told him no one in.
That's okay. I believe if you see Martavis Bryant on the field at any point in time this season, it's probably going to be because of something that you don't want as far as injury, or he's just earned it.
Yeah.
That's my thing, is that if they do see some good things from him in practice and he is able to elevate himself, it is 9 times out of 10 because he really earned it because of the Jalen Tolberts, because of the Turpins, because of the Brandon Cooks. But I will say also, too, looking at the film on against Philly, baby, they were not expecting 87 to be the 87 that he is. And I believe that what...
Sorry, something fell from the roof.
Oh, God.
I think it was a bug, honestly.
Oh.
It kind of, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I don't do bugs.
I don't either.
Baby, I don't do bugs.
But no, I do believe that Jake Ferguson is starting to put some great things on tape, work in the middle of the field, showing his yak ability, really attacking the seams. And what you saw later in that game is Philly started understanding that. So they started bringing coverage to him to cover him. And what I think, if Jake Ferguson is going to continue to emerge as the tight end that we're starting to see, that's going to open up things for a Brandon Cooks and those gentlemen as well, because we talked about it for a lot of this season. Because the usage of the tight ends was so inconsistent, defenses knew that too. They was like, oh, you rolling him out Okay, cool. I'm just going to shade over here to CD. I don't care. And so I do believe that this offense will start to open up more the more that Jake Ferguson continues to develop and show what he's capable of as well.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy actually gave a lot of credit to the work that he put in this offseason and just adding some weight on as well in the offseason. He was more of like a role player, he said, obviously behind Schultz, and then came in and just has really grown. So he said that connection between him and Dak
You can
has
see
really,
it.
has really
You
grown
can see
as well.
it even when he's helping him up after plays.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, the way he tossed Byard, I mean, listen, get off my quarterback.
Fight for your quarterback.
Get up off of
Yep.
him. And so that energy is the energy. And there was one play on the field, you saw Dak roll out, and Jake was like, he was open, but it wasn't really nothing there like that. So he was like, come on then. Like, he tells Dak, like, come on. So, yes, their connection. Having a tight end in your offense that can consistently win is a plus. It is a plus, and not only that, he's doing things in the blocking game as well. I'm actually very excited because it's something this offense has been lacking at the start of the season is consistent play in the middle of the field. Getting it from Ferg is going to open up things on the outside too, because if you're not bringing a body over there, you're crazy because corners are too small to tackle him one-on-one.
Yeah.
I caught up with Jake Ferguson today. It's so funny now, just all the little media scrum that waits by his locker.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, I asked Schottenheimer about him earlier in the week on Monday when we spoke to the coordinators, kind of his evolution, where he's seen him come just this year alone as the starting tight end, now that you're kind of halfway through the season. And something that Schottenheimer said that stood out to me was he's his toughest critic. And you hear that a lot in football. But what you don't think about often is, well, where does that mindset come from? So I talked to Jake today, and I was like, hey, just curious, because Schottenheimer said this, Mike echoed it today as well, that Jake's his toughest critic. His own toughest critic. And I asked Jake, so where did this come from? And he said, well, honestly, it started in youth football with my grandpa, and then it leaked into my dad, and then that kind of leaked into me. So he talked about examples where he would be playing youth football, and it would be raining, and he said there would be a drop pass, and he could have played a perfect game in the rain, and the one thing that, would kind of be asked of him afterwards was like, well, why'd you drop that one pass? And he said, I would take accountability even then and say, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have dropped it. And what's really cool to see is that's kind of embedded in his DNA at this point, because even going back to after the game on Sunday, the first thing Jake Ferguson did was take accountability for what he could have done and where he could have been better. And so when you're talking about a starting tight end, yes, it obviously has a lot to do with production on the field, but it's also the part of the game that you don't necessarily see, which is the accountability that he takes to be better and be a locker room friendly guy, be a good teammate for his quarterback. So he really is the epitome of what you want in a starting tight end in this role. And it's just really, really exciting to know that he's only 2 years into this and what he has ahead could be really, really special if he continues on this upward trend that he's on.
Yeah, I'm like
modern tight end. It is. He is. He's kind of what people are looking for. They're looking for that Kelsey-esque guy that has receiver qualities, but also can do things in line, close to the line of scrimmage, can help chip, can help in the run game. He's put in the package together. It's really dope to see because covering the draft, you're looking for a guy like Ferg at this point, the way he's developing. It's for him to start establishing himself as one of the more premier tight ends in this league and to see him come in as a rookie and how much he's grown, it's been pretty dope. Yeah,
and I think he also played receiver in high school and linebacker too, so that's really helped him. So I'm liking the ball distribution between Dak and getting the ball to Jake, and then of course CD. But I think for me, I really want to see it. I hate to say it because I feel like we say this every single week, but I want to see what Cooks can do. We've seen what he can do, right? In 2 games. He can cook, but I just want to see you have a guy that is explosive, who can route run, who has speed. Use him. You've brought him here to do it. Use him. Why are we not getting Cooks involved? It really blows me. Is it going to take him to be like CD, like, yo, give me the ball?
No, I mean,
like, I'm confused.
There's a couple things.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple things at play.
Yeah.
Number one, I do believe that this system is a progression offense, and Dak goes through his progressions and he sees who's open, and I do believe that plays a part in. There's nothing wrong with it. I do think that plays a part in what's going on with Brandon Cook's usage. Also, when you have a connection with how CD is right now with Dak Prescott, they are on a heater. Like they are so locked on to each other, and CD's just winning at such a consistent level.
But what happens when CD's not winning?
Which is fair, and that's why I said that the tight end play is going to open up things as well. I do believe that Brandon Cooks is he's gonna become an important part, but also too, I mean, Jalen Tolbert. If Jalen Tolbert's going to emerge, also, there's a lot of hats in the ring. There's a lot of guys that we're trying to get touches to consistently, and I just don't. Even if you I looked and went down Philly's games, just in comparison to when AJ Brown has a great game and when Devontae Smith has a good game, and I think it's more difficult than what everyone thinks as far as ball distribution. I agree. You brought him in to be the speed guy, to be a guy that can take the top off, to be reliable, stuff like that. But I do kind of understand where they are right now and how things are working, why he's not as involved, because CD and Dak are just playing on another level right now. What you got?
That's true.
Yeah, no, it just kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Your first look is going to be CD Lamb all the time, and with how quickly Dak Prescott is releasing the ball to get out of a crumbling, offensive line, especially when you're talking in terms of the right side, that's what you're going to get right now is a very CD friendly scheme. But eventually, things either come together to where those looks kind of are getting distributed and you see more action from everybody, or you keep riding the hot hand. Like that's really, you can't disrupt what those two are doing right now. It's just too important and too vital, and it's such a tricky game. There's so many things that are going into this
so
right
hard,
now,
yes.
because it's not just as simple as, okay, get him the ball, because then you're also messing with confidence that CD has worked his tail off to build at this point too. So at this point, again, I think it's just growing pains of determining what exactly your offensive identity is going to be. Is it going to be, all about wide receiver one, tight end one? Are you going to add run game in there? There's a lot of things going on, and I think a lot of it leaks back to how quickly Dak is having to get the ball out of his hands with kind of how the offensive line has been playing, specifically on the right side. So there's a lot that goes into it. I think it's still a work in progress, and I don't think what you're seeing now is what you're always going to see.
What you got?
Oh, no.
I know you sick of you. Listen, I truly understand the frustration.
I do too.
I do. It's especially when you go back and watch like some of the tape. He's doing a lot of clear out stuff. They do respect his speed over the top. They're doing some things, but I get your frustration because he's been productive everywhere else, but he also has been the number one in a lot of places that he's been last. Like, so it's...
You also can't tell me he can't feel the frustration. I'm sure he does. Yeah. I mean, you get brought into this new opportunity with a really good team around you and a quarterback that is very capable of making sure that you do what you need to do to be productive. Again, I'm sure it's frustrating for everybody involved right now, but I don't see it just staying stagnant like this right now.
You're going to need him. You're going to need him. You're going to need him, and then it's going to be, oh, crap. Can't use barnacles. Oh, barnacles. Like...
There's 9 games left.
Yeah, but you don't want to start using him in week 12, week 13, then let's, hypothetically speaking, you seeing drop passes. Well, I mean, you haven't been... You know what I'm saying?
He's not warm.
He's not warm.
I also think that because he's such a veteran, though, like, you can kind of do that a little bit more than you can with a newer player. And that's not a great excuse, but Cooks is going to cook no matter what. I mean, he's going to come out of the gates. He's going to cook. He's going to cook.
You're going to need him. You're going to need him soon. You're going to need him at some point in time. And like I said, I just think there's a lot of factors. But more than anything, the way CeeDee Lamb is playing right now, you just can't take the ball out of his hands. Like he's cooking everybody, baby. He beat the safety. He beat both of their corners. Yeah. I mean, he cooked every single person on the like the disrespect.
But
No,
yeah.
that's no knock to CD either.
No.
Like, it's just obviously he is the number one guy. He's proven that. I just
You're gonna
think
need
that
him later,
you're
too.
Yeah.
You're going to need a healthy CD later, too.
Exactly.
There.
Exactly. All right. Well, I think you kind of touched a little bit on where I wanted to go next. We're gonna talk about this offensive line coming up right after the break. You're watching Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be right back.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hello, I had to make sure it was Wednesday. Okay, head to AT&T Stadium on Saturday, November 11th to experience Rally Day presented by SeatGeek. Celebrate Veterans Day with special presentations from the Color Guard and Junior ROTC drill team, plus a 21-gun salute. Take a tour of AT&T Stadium, get autographs from the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders and alumni, play games, head outside to the Miller Lighthouse, and even play on the field. Visit AT&TStadium.com/Rally Days for tickets and more information.
Rally Days.
Sounds fun.
It's a lot
Rally.
of cool events.
Yeah,
Little rally
sounds good.
days. Sounds great. All right, let's talk about this offensive line. Well, okay, actually, I won't be hard on them. And I'll say, and then I'll kind of pose the question. Obviously, it's on the right side with Terrence Steele, still his first year back from his injury. My thoughts, though, I think he deserves a little bit of grace.
Of course,
And I'm going to
100%.
say that I think he deserves some grace. And for y'all Cowboys Nations that don't want to hear that, y'all going to hear me today. Because, yeah, I got time. No, I mean, when Tyler, the T's, the 3 T's, sorry.
There's a
They
lot.
were all out for injuries.
Say that.
You know, he held it down. He's been playing really well the past 2 years. And I just think that, like, even though it sucks that he has not played to his full potential, and that's just because he is first year back on his injury, I think there's a lot more room for improvement. We got to just give him some grace. And how much grace do y'all feel like he deserves, though? Because now we're getting into that stretch of the season where it's like it's business time, you know?
I had to adjust the mic for this one. Okay, let's look back the last 10 weeks. You know the one player that has not sat out because of injury? Terrence
100%
Steele.
of the snaps, man.
Terrence Steele.
It's crazy.
He's played every single game. And if you want to look at one, let's already look at how hard it is to be an offensive lineman that is taking hit after hit after hit. That's hard to do, especially when he's coming off of multiple knee injuries at this point. Came back early for and is still in the process of relearning his body and his knee and how to play on that. He has grit. He has grit to be out there. He has determination. He wants to get better. And look, he'll be the first one to tell you that. You don't have to tell him 10 times how he's playing. He's very well aware of it. The thing is if you're looking at a guy that's played all of these snaps in the last 10 weeks, he's the only one on that line that has not missed a game so far this season. Obviously, you're going to be playing banged up already. But then you add this knee injury that he's coming back from, it's kind of going to make it feel worse than what he would feel if he was just playing a regular season without this knee injury that he rehabbed back from. So, yeah, you don't expect a 100% Terrence Steele at this point because of multiple reasons. And I think people are forgetting that, yeah, not only is he coming off of this knee injury, but he's played all of the snaps this season, guys.
Yeah.
He's played all of it. I'm sure he's hurting. So it's not an excuse, and I'm not making excuses for him. He won't make excuses for himself. I guarantee you talk to him in the locker room, he's not going to make excuses for himself. But I just think, give him some grace.
Yeah.
Give him some grace. He played a very difficult defensive line, so need not take away what the Eagles were doing on the other side, too.
Yeah.
They were trying to take advantage of how he's been playing. They were trying him. So, look, I think you give him some grace. You saw what you saw in the Eagles game, and you move forward. That's really all you can do. You can't sit there and dwell on it, because you even look at what are the options if he's not in. What do you do?
And that kind of goes back to my point. We should have got someone in with more experience in that position, just to kind of take the load off.
I mean, baby, right tackles are hard to
well,
come
yeah,
by.
hard
Ain't
to
nobody
come
giving
by.
them. Ain't nobody giving them away
Yeah.
cheap. I do think you do have some decent depth guys on this team,
Yeah.
but as far as like Terrence and what's going on with him, obviously teams they clearly are seeing. I mean, Hassan Reddick is a premier pass rusher at this point in time. He's one of the best in the league statistically. So, they were able to take advantage of some of the hand fighting and some of the stuff that he's struggling with right now and leverage specifically. But what I would do and what I saw them do in this game a bit, I just think he needs a little bit more time. Because there were a couple times that if he had just a tad bit more time, then things would be okay. So, for me, I think this offensive line, the success of this offensive line is on if Tyron is going to play. Because one thing about the 49ers that I noticed is that they very much so know where their bread is buttered. They know that their left side is their strong side. And that is why specifically right now they've been struggling to move the ball, running the ball, because they go left side a lot. This left side of this offensive line, when when Tyler and Tyron are there, that's your strong side.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot to that side to take some pressure off of Terrence. And so for me, I'm looking at moving forward, how do you adjust? Okay, clearly your left side's your strong side when Tyron is playing. So you can definitely do a lot more of your stuff that you want to do, your pins, your pulls, your crack tosses, whatever. You send them that way because that's the side that's getting the most motion. Also, in regard to how to help him, you bring a tight end over there just to chip, just to help out a little bit, because what's happening is like DNs are lining up so wide off of him. It's putting a lot of stress off of him, getting out of his stance. You just bring somebody over there. They did it in this game a bit. Ferg just kind of was like, he would get off the line and he'd just be like, and then keep going. Like I was thinking about the white chick scene, but he'd just be like, y'all know what I'm talking about. He'd just be like, he basically just blocks for a little bit and then he gets out into the flats. And to me, that's something that you can do that also doesn't take Ferg away as a passing threat, because I do believe that plays a huge role in how they're doing things now too. They're running a lot of 11 personnel where Ferg is the only tight end on the field. With that, he's a receiving option, and if you're using him to help block, you're taking him away as a passing option. So they have to figure out ways, or even if it's a running back, it could also be a running back that stays in there and helps and chips a little bit. They're gonna have to figure out ways just to give him a little bit more time, because I believe that when he sets and he's set, he's fine. He had some good plays in this game. It was some bad, but he did have some good plays in this game. If he gets a little bit of help in those departments, I'm hoping that they figure it out. I do think you'll make it through the season okay. And also, if Tyron can stay healthy, holy crap, that left side is hecka strong. You can do a lot running the ball that way, and also to dictating how you pass the ball that way as well. So, I do think there are some things you can do to help out Big Dog right now while he's trying to recover.
Speaking of Tyron, I think I saw on Twitter someone report that I think he'll be missing practices on Wednesdays now from here on out.
He's been missing practices.
I'm saying, like, from the rest of the season.
And that makes sense. Typically, today was a little bit of a weird day. They had more of a walkthrough.
It's a Wednesday.
Today was a weird day. Today was a very weird day for practice. But typically, what you'll see is a regular practice. They didn't do that today, but Wednesdays are veteran rest days. Yeah. Typically for this team, and that's kind of what it's unspokenly been for the last 10 weeks, or not like last month specifically, but it makes sense. Yeah. You see what he does with the veteran rest day already. If he has games like he did in Philly, he's gonna hurt. You keep him. You keep him from hurting, keep him from getting more sore, and you avoid injury that way as much as you possibly can. So.
Because in games, he looks like, I don't know.
He'd been practicing.
Yeah, he looked
yeah.
fine.
It's
but
like
then,
a switch turns on.
But then in practice
Crazy.
is when he's getting dinged up. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He hasn't gotten injured in the game. It's been all like he looks great in the games when he's playing. It's just practice, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the approach, and to see him go out there and when I say he erased that left side, I mean I saw so many grown men on the ground.
Yeah.
I said, get up. Why y'all like they were just. He was a brick wall, and it's just crazy just how impressive he still is at this age. It's just insane.
Yesterday, actually, fun fact, this was my first time seeing Tyron without, like, pads on.
He's a
Yeah.
big person.
Yo, he's huge.
He's a big person.
Yeah.
Like, literally the Hulk.
Yeah.
I was looking up, like,
Thanos.
yo,
Yeah.
why are you so big? Because in locker room, we hardly see him. And so, like, when I saw him for the first time, I was like,
And he's such a gentle dude.
Yeah.
He's real cool when you speak to
Exactly.
him. So you just for him to be able to turn on this like
It's
viciousness
crazy.
and have people in his vice
Yeah.
grips like it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. He's great.
yeah. But obviously, you know, we haven't seen, let's move forward to this run game, though.
That's a good point.
We talked a little bit about, I think on Monday, but we didn't get to touch on whether or not. I remember Mike McCarthy saying that, you know, he was pleased with the amount of time that Tony Pollard's receiving. Oh God, I think I hit a nerve. Yeah, he's pleased
Sorry.
with the amount of play time that Tony is receiving. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of with y'all. I want to see Rico Dowdle a little bit more. How are y'all feeling about the whole running back situation? Who do you feel should be getting more? Let me just
Well,
start.
I mean, I'm not.
you go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm
No,
not,
you go ahead.
So when you look at the amount of touches Tony's getting, he's not getting a lot of touches.
Yeah.
He's not getting a lot of touches himself. And so the problem is, or I guess it's maybe not a problem, maybe we need to understand what the philosophy is here. Has there been a change? Because your aerial attack is really producing right now, but the way that the run is going right now is it's inconsistent is how I would describe it. And it was really frustrating because when I went back and looked at the game, the drive in which Scoon had the hold and Rico had the big run, you could see it was starting to click for them. You could see that they were starting to find some favorable things that they saw.
Yeah.
And so, but that was stalled by the hold, and then things kind of derailed. And so for me with the run game, I'm looking for consistency there. And I also, too, I know Mike McCarthy is, talked about some of the changes that they're maybe trying to make and how they're trying to improve there. But a lot of it with the distribution is the amount of snaps. I mean, the amount of time. I mean, even in this past game, Philly almost took up that whole third quarter.
Yeah.
And so it's just, and you've had games this season where you're in the fourth quarter and your starters are on the sideline. So I'm looking at the running back usage as a whole. I'm looking at how much they're running the ball in general, and the consistency in that, and also the scheme too. And looking at, okay, well, maybe this is why Rico's not involved. I do think when you start getting into these cold games, you start getting longer in the season, you cannot just depend on Tony to just be that guy consistently. Like, you're going to need another body as the season wanes on. I'm really hoping that we start to see a little bit more Rico. They sprinkled in some Hunter Lipke. I mean, when I say a sprinkle of Hunter Lipke just to go out there and help block. But yeah, it's this run game is. I'm trying to stay level-headed about it, because at this point, baby, I'm about to check out. I'm about to check out of like being like, I want them to do this in the run game, because I just don't know if it's going to happen. And also, too, I wonder if this team is turning into just more of an aerial attack and a situational running game, which it can work if you are able to consistently win the line of scrimmage. It's just we haven't seen that consistent lead. She's sick.
Where do I
She's sick.
start?
I tried to do it the calm
sorry.
way. She's not gonna do it the calm way.
No. Here's the thing. I agree with everything you said. I agree. It's not just as simple as where's Rico Dowdle, because you look at where's the run, period. Where's your run game? Where's your run threat? And what I do find interesting is, so when we're asking Mike McCarthy about other guys coming off of injury, he's very honest and he's very vocal in saying, like, Terrence Steele's dealing with this injury and kind of coming back from that. He mentions Michael Gallup in that conversation as well. But he said on Monday that when it comes to Tony Pollard, it's not an injury thing, that he hasn't gotten any word from trainers or other coaches or anything like that to indicate that he's dealing with anything injury-wise. Mm-hmm. So my issue here lies with, you have everything you need to have a very viable run game, because you don't just have Tony and Rico. You have a Hunter. You have a Deuce.
You can use Turpin in the backfield.
You have
sometimes.
a Terp. Yeah. You have a Malik if you really want to from the practice squad. You have multiple.
CD.
If you want. I mean, you have multiple options here, and you cannot tell me that playbook does not have special packages for those kind of guys. And I'm all for not showing your hand if you don't need to, but if you're going to get your run game established, stick with trying to establish it. And again, we talked about this last week. Philly was not the team to do it against. I respected them for trying, because there were glimpses where I was like,
the best run defense in the league.
Is this the run game being established? And then they abandoned the run. My issue is, you have a very favorable opponent. I'm running down these stats right here. You have a very favorable opponent to get that run game momentum started from this point forward. Very favorable when it comes to the Giants to see what your run can really do at full force here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking
all game.
Everybody should have 100 yards plus. I mean, and that's the 32nd in the league.
No shade. No team, no shade.
No, I'm looking statistics only. If you want to get your run game going, it is against the Giants. You see what you can do. That doesn't necessarily mean you give some unscouted looks. No, it's just, hey, here's a game. You're at home. Get your legs warm. Get everything going. And start figuring out what an actual distribution between your running backs looks like. Yep. That's all I'm saying. It's no shade to the Giants. Whatever. It's just, you don't have the D-line like you had last week against Philly, where if nothing happened, I expect that. That's fair, especially with the lack of consistency from the run game. But it is frustrating, because you have a guy like Rico Dowdle who, look, okay, your run game's not established. Passing threat, you can use him in the receiving game as well. Him and Tony Pollard. And it's just, it's frustrating, because you have these guys that work to come back from injury, Tony Pollard and Rico Dowdle both, and they just haven't been used enough. So I expect growing pains, but if after this week the run is not more established, and we're not talking this time next week about how better the run game looked, I'm going to be real frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no real big difference in as far as like production between the two. I think both of them are averaging about 4 yards a pop. So I mean, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how well they use them against the Giants. But we're gonna go ahead and take our second break. You're watching Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be right back.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
For youth, football, and dance camps presented by Invisalign. Don't miss your chance to learn from the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders and former NFL players at AT&T Stadium on December 22nd and 23rd. Celebrate the holidays with the Cowboys. Register today at dallascowboys.com/camps. Sounds fun.
Love camps. Like
Sounds fun.
Youth camps. I used to love youth camps when I was little.
They were always just like a highlight. to be like, whoa, this
Yeah.
is so fun. And I can't even imagine these ones because I did not have something cool like that back home.
Really?
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, back home it was like the local high schools would put on like youth camps, right? Like,
I'm dead.
nothing
My
really
mom-
happens in Las Cruces.
Oh, my mom and dad stayed putting me in youth camps to get me out the house.
They're like,
They were
get
sick
out of
me.
our hair.
No, they were so sick of me. But let's go ahead and wrap things up with this defense, y'all. I was looking back. I know Aisha's gonna break down what she saw as well, but what I kind of saw, and just going from that first touchdown of the Eagles game. Wrote some little notes real quick. No, it was no, it was so crazy to see how many mistakes, like little mistakes, this defense made. Damone, the first thing was, I feel like he should have been more of a spy on that play. Let me make sure I had the right thing. I don't know if you guys know which play I'm talking about, but it was that touchdown, 12-yard touchdown from Kenneth Gainwell.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. He should have.
Yeah, he should have been more of a spy, but he crashes down, gets stuck in traffic trying to make up for it. Dorrance Armstrong, he comes off late off the block, trying to wrap around.
You talking about the one to the right?
Yeah, to the right.
Okay.
To the right.
I know what you're talking about.
And then next thing you know, Stephon Gilmore dives to try to make the tackle instead of just, staying up on top. And I don't know, it was just kind of like there were just too many like minor mistakes in my book for this defense. Clearly some things to clean up. What did you notice from film that kind of stood out to you?
Well, in regards to that play,
Yeah.
number one, Malik Hooker was reading the RPO, and so he ran over to the other side of the formation because he thought that Jalen was going to take the handoff that way. We would have had help weak side. Well, you would have had help strong side. But I will say also, too, teams are figuring out, and this is something Dan Quinn is going to have to tackle, and I'm sure he will. Teams are figuring out how to take advantage of your linebackers, and because you use your linebackers as safeties as linebackers often, there's a mismatch when you talk about size. And I'm starting to see that teams are learning how to take advantage of that. And just with the linebackers in general, even on that play, if Marquise Bell fills his gap with certainty, he makes the play. And so that, to me, is a huge thing moving forward, is how teams are kind of figuring out how to find favorable matchups with your linebackers that are undersized in some instances. They just have to be ferocious and come downhill and play the game physical. There were a couple times I saw them just hesitating. And that happens when you have a team that runs the RPO as much as this team does, even though they did it less. But yeah, that was one of the biggest things that I noticed on film. You had it. You have it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm listening.
Okay,
to you.
but also too, something that I noticed is that the defensive ends lost contain a lot. And when you say contain, that means like they set the edge, so if a guy's trying to bounce to the outside, they have to cut back inside. And what happened is a lot of the time the defensive ends, and teams do this often with the Cowboys, they use your aggressiveness against you. They're like, okay, you guys are going to get upfield, screen. Oh, I'm going to throw behind you, or I'm going to figure out how to navigate that. Yeah. So I do think that's something that this defense as a whole really has to work on, is the edges minus Tank. Consistently containing and being able to shed and make tackles. Also, too, Dan Quinn talked about it. He talked about third down and how they weren't that good on third down. One of the things I noticed was just how much, again, and teams did this against Philly prior to this game, where they played soft coverage. And it's because you kind of are threatened by the explosiveness of this offense. You're threatened by an A.J. Brown. You're threatened by a Devontae Smith that's a good route runner. But there were just a couple times that I was just like, dang, I would have pressed right there. I would have because with that A.J. Brown, and even so, when you look at film, there were times that Micah was right there, or Osa was right there. And if you would have pressed, if you would have got physical at the line of scrimmage and kind of derailed whatever route they were running, it would have been sacks. It was about 3 times in that game that if they had just pressed and didn't give them free releases, that they would be able to probably have a sack, possibly a turnover. So there's just some things that I'm looking at with this defense, is even with Micah. I love when Micah is across the line. when he's not just a DN, because you also are seeing that teams are like, oh, you gonna line him up over there?
Yeah.
Cool. Let him contain. Let him play weak side. Let him be over there, because we're not gonna run over there.
Yeah.
We're not going over there. We're gonna go away from him. And so also too, I'm looking at Dan Quinn possibly getting back to moving Micah across the line and letting him be that chess piece, because when you just put him at edge, it is far easier for teams to scheme against you and for them to take advantage there, especially with an offensive line like Philly. So, I mean, this defense, I believe, is still good. They're still strong. But especially in the run, you need your linebackers to be more sure and to fill with more aggression. And then also, too, your DNs have to do better at containing and trusting their eyes and being physical when it comes to that. Secondary played pretty well, man. I just still think on those crucial third down situations, baby, stop letting them free releases off the line of scrimmage. It was so much space in so many times. I get respecting them. Don't respect them that much. They got to earn it.
Period.
Girl, oh my gosh.
I was deep in the film. Like this is a big game to learn from.
Yes.
They can take. And it was kind of is it a litmus test that Dak didn't know what it was? Is it litmus? Litmus. How do you say it?
I don't know. I'm not even gonna try.
How you say it, Jazzy? How you say it?
Come on, Jazz, and say it so people can hear you.
Litmus.
People probably thinking like we crazy because
I
they're
just
like,
know
who is
that
Jazzy?
I'm so confused by everything that y'all saying.
Okay, my bad. But no, it was a test to me to see how well the
measuring
Cowboys,
stick.
Yeah, a
There, we'll say that.
Let's do it the Dak way. Yes, a measuring stick. Because baby, I just was messing up too. I'll be ashamed.
It is okay.
But I do think this was a test for the defensive ends, just to see who is going to be that content. Sam Williams, maybe give him a few more snaps. Like I wanted to see how they handled this offensive line, and for the most part, they did pretty well. It was the third downs and obviously the scores, like the few scores where they are inside the 1 to 2 or whatever. So some things to grow upon with this defense.
Yeah.
I hope that they grow from it, because it's a copycat league. And it's gonna keep happening until you stop it. And so, let's get it. Let's grow from this. I'm ready to turn the page. I'm over it.
I'm over it.
That's how she
My
gets after she watches
goodness.
film. Keep in mind, guys, for Aisha to get this film study, she watches this game about, what, like 4 or 5?
About 4 times.
Yeah.
That's all I got in me. But I'm really just, like you talked about, like we're in a place to where you're about to go up against the Giants. You do need to see, how you're improving or whatever. This is turning the page. I'm ready to turn the page too, and I'm ready for them to take the things that they messed up in this game and hopefully learn from it. Late game situations, third downs, all that stuff. That's stuff that's going to get you whooped later.
I also think it's a good place to be in.
It
You're the
is.
defense. It's not a
It's not
horrible
bad.
place to be in.
No.
You're going up against, debatably, I think you could throw a couple other teams in there, but like your best test of the season so far, and they didn't do too bad. I mean, overall, you're talking about a very young linebacker room that we said prior to the game, without Leighton, you are going to see truly what your weaknesses are. And that would have been the case even if they won the game. There still would have been things to pick at to say, hey, they can't keep doing this, especially without your veteran guy. And from what it sounds like, and from what Stephen Jones said earlier this week on The Fan, you don't know how long that's going to be. You don't know. You don't know if it's going to be. There's a lot of question marks right now to when you're getting him back, so you have to kind of start planning out. And I'm sure they didn't wait until this week to do that, but what this looks like if you don't get Leighton back at any point.
Adjust. They got to adjust.
Yeah.
DQ has to adjust. You got to figure some things out, see what happened. What you got? How do you feel about the defense?
I mean, I think they're playing well, and like Jess said, I think they're in a good spot. It's just the little things, like paying attention to details when it comes down to that unit.
Yes.
And it's going to pay off towards these next 9 games, because you don't want to be in week 13 with the same issues, So I think they're in a good spot, and hopefully they can just put everything together this weekend. I mean, they should be able to. They should be able to. But I mean, let's go.
Got
Cowboys.
DeVito coming to town.
Yeah.
I gotta read. I gotta watch some film on him, y'all. We'll talk about him tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for today's episode.
I decided to be
Girls
nice.
Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see y'all mañana.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!